Hi everyone, Reverend Beth Simmons here with another midweek moment. Hopefully you can hear me over the bubbling, rushing water that I'm sitting with my feet in and with the rooster, as often joins us. It is warm, seasonably warm, sunny for the first time in quite a few days. Sending prayers to our neighbors in Vermont who have been hit with quite a bit of water, New York as well, but right next door in Vermont, there is lots of flooding. There is more rain to come. We have also had some flooding and some washouts, but not quite the severity as Vermont has. And we also have more rain coming. But so our little stream here, which often goes dry in the summer, is rushing, bubbling right along. So I am sitting here. Since it is warm, I'm sticking my feet in the very cold water and enjoying this time outside while I chat with you. So this past Sunday, we had a lovely time for all ages with 3 kids, 2 of whom are mine. And it was just a lovely, wonderful energy that they offered in that space and time. And I mentioned it at the beginning of my sermon, just how much I really love having kids in worship and in church life. And not just because it offers hope that the church will continue, which many of our congregations, at least in our area, smaller congregations, worry about that because they don't have kids, they don't have young families, and they are aging rapidly and not finding the generation to come up. But I really love having kids in worship, and it makes you really think about what they're learning about their faith. We don't have right now a formal Sunday school program. The kids leave worship after the time for all ages, about 1/4 of the way, 1/3 of the way through the service. And they head out with an adult and they do a fun activity, a craft, or they take a walk outside. They've visited the goats that are just down the street. They have searched for special plants and visited the cemetery. They've gone sledding in the winter. And it's a lovely time for community building when there are other kids other than my children, or just for a special time with another adult for my kids when they're by themselves. But I've been thinking about what we teach our kids. And sometime in the last couple weeks, the lectionary brought up the story of Abraham and Isaac. And we didn't read that in our congregation because we're doing a different sermon series, and that's not lectionary based. But many other congregations heard the story of God calling on Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. And it's a really hard, tricky story to be wrestled, challenging story. And I don't want to focus so much on that particular story as on a note I saw that said that this one way to tackle that story is to think of it as not ending the violence of the next generation, so not passing that on. And it got me thinking about how we use our faith traditions to pass on the stories of our faith and the traditions of our faith, and how, if things are not working or have not worked or have caused harm or have excluded people, how, if we want that to change in the next generation, that means that we need to change things that we're doing. And so it made me think especially about music and the songs we sing, because the songs that we sang this past Sunday were lovely songs. They were from our hymnal, which is from 1979, so it's as old as I am. And it has some language challenges from my perspective. So coming from a Gen Xer, right on the border of millennial. So it is very binary language. It is very masculine language, and it uses like even racial terms that we don't use anymore that are not appropriate. And so coming up with different songs or introducing new songs to a congregation is some of the most challenging moments I have found as a pastor. And I know my colleagues would agree with me. Different tunes that people aren't familiar with. If you're not a musically strong congregation or a singing congregation, it's really difficult. Some people are so familiar with the hymns, they can sing them by heart. And so when you change the wording, it is very disruptive is not the word. I'm like just jarring to them. And yet, why do we sing these songs? It's not just for familiarity and nostalgia and comfort, but as a way to teach our faith, our traditions, our stories. And so if we're doing so in language that we wouldn't use every day, or that we wouldn't want our children to use, or that we don't want our children to learn, we need to address that. And so I know that some of my colleagues have been considering this, thinking about this. My wonderful seminary friend and UCC colleague, Reverend Hannah Brown, has rewritten a few hymns, familiar tunes with new words, but not in not like a word for word replacement, like not a new translation or interpretation of the words, but just a completely new song to a familiar tune. And I really appreciate that and love that. And I think that might be something that I might start challenging or sort of trying to create myself. I don't know how much of a songsmith I am, but I might, because I don't want my kids I don't want them learning these hymns, these old traditional hymns with this problematic exclusivist language, and then have to be adults and go, oh, this is really familiar and comforting to me, and now it's jarring to change it even though I know it's wrong. Or for them to go, oh, what are we singing? What is that? Or even worse, to think, oh no, this is okay because we sang it all the time. We sing these words. So I want to throw that out there to listen, really pay attention. If you're a churchgoer, pay attention to the words that you're singing in the hymns that you sing together in our congregation and other congregations. Look up your favorite hymns and look at the lyrics, and see if they're things that feel comfortable to you or if they are a little bit cringy. And consider how you might adjust them, how you might change them, or consider being more open to singing new. There's beautiful hymnody coming out now. Lots of wonderful people writing beautiful music. We just have to be open enough to accept it and recognize that generations ago, these hymns that are now old and familiar to us, were new and challenging to those who first sang it. And in fact, our spiritual ancestors here in Hancock wouldn't have even been singing hymns at all. They would have only been singing the Psalms, and introducing any kind of new congregational hymn singing would have been probably a little bit jarring and unseemly for some. And now it's familiar to us. So just, if we want a new generation to be raised in the church and in the faith and in the love of God, we need to consider all aspects of how we teach the faith, not just Sunday school curriculum, not just the, Time for All Ages or children's sermons that we do on Sunday, but every aspect, including those hymns that we hope that they are singing and doing, joining in worship, to help learn. And perhaps there's some things that we need to learn from new songs too. So that's it for this week. Just my thoughts on this hot summer day, and I hope you find maybe some water to dip your toes in, or a nice cold glass of lemonade, and that if you are in the path of oncoming storms, that you remain safe, and that we can help however we can in the future. Be well, everyone. I love you.